to be joined by Staxy, as we're actually working on the project together for a university up in the north of England, and something I'm sure you and I will cover in a bit more detail soon. I was going to introduce you, but I thought actually, Will, it might be best if you were to introduce yourself, because you could speak probably better about Staxy and what you do in your product.
Yeah, of course. Hi guys. Again, thank you everyone who's joined. So I'm Will. I'm the CEO here at Staxy, and a bit about Staxy in general is our goal is to cut emissions and costs for commuter travel, whether that's people driving to work, traveling to watch sports events, or those traveling to school or university. And a bit about us, we do this through two key bits of technology. The first is our AI-powered data collection tool. And second is our mobility as a service platform. So a bit more context there is we integrate our technology into existing apps and ecosystems, but we can also provide them as standalone apps. And our algorithm then enables us to collect data on how people travel, and then automatically calculate the carbon emissions of that to then inform sustainability strategies, whether that's people driving to work or getting the train to a football match. And then the second part of the tech is then our mobile platform that integrates into existing apps and websites that centralizes public and private transport for users. So helping them then find the most sustainable travel solution that they can then book and access through the platform. So bit of an example for one of the football clubs we work with, a fan via the club app can see all public and private ways they can travel to the game. So they can then book the train, book shuttle buses, coaches, parking, e-mobility solutions, then hopefully provide them with a low-cost and sustainable way to travel. Bit of a colour to what we do, but I hope that provides a high-level overview.
No, that's fantastic. That's really great to hear, and I think it goes. Thinking about what we do as an organisation and what Staxy do as an organisation, it's that white heat of technology which kind of bridges the two. And I think that's why Staxy and Team Jump, why there's such a natural synergy between what you're offering around that mobility as a service provision and what we're doing around behaviour change, around gamification, and encouraging those, motivating and empowering individuals, encouraging those positive sustainable actions.
Yeah, 100%. I completely agree. I think a big part of it is giving people the tools to be able to make those decisions to be more sustainable. At the same time, really kind of driving that behaviour change, because we know that it's a massive part of kind of getting people to change those habits is kind of rewarding and really incentivizing that. So the combination of understanding the problem, giving them a solution, and then rewarding them to make that change provides a really kind of unique flow that I think is successful.
Yeah. Good. So, and we'll come back to that, thinking about that how that works, that integration shortly. But I had a couple of questions for you, Will. So I suppose the first one I think is how you came up with the idea of Staxy. Where did it originate? What was the original concept behind it, and how did you get to being where Staxy is today?
Yeah, so it's kind of a very strange story. Staxy was actually founded by myself and my co-founder Will whilst we were still at university. I went to Exeter University, co-founder went to Bath. If you don't know where they are, that's probably a fair reflection on the fact that they are in the middle of nowhere down in the southwest of the country. And we realized continuously that a lot of people were driving down to university, but also to get public transport down there was incredibly difficult and costly. So we thought, well, how can we find a way to help students access sustainable and low-cost travel solutions? So we came up with the idea of a carpooling platform for university students. So if you're driving down to university, or if you're driving to a sports fixture or driving to somewhere nearby, post your journey on an app, and then other students can then join that journey and pay a cost contribution. You're collectively reducing your individual carbon footprints. So that's how we very first started. We launched at Exeter and Bath Uni, and then very quickly we looked to see how we could kind of take it away from the student market and see how else we can help other organizations. So we had a local professional sports club, and then also a local a large employer come to and say, we'd love to have a platform for our fans and for our staff. And that's kind of where it then really triggered the idea of, okay, well, we can provide them with a carpooling platform, but actually, how can we provide them with a more valuable solution? How can we actually say that not everyone drives to football match or drives to work? How can we help them book the best train ticket for them, the cheapest option available? How can we help them find e-mobility solutions nearby they can use? Or for football clubs, how can we help manage shuttle buses or coach services that can get people to games in a more sustainable way? So that kind of really started us on our journey of building this mass platform to provide those travel solutions to people. So actually we provide options and can really try to say for every person, here's how you can travel sustainably. And then at the same time, with new reporting standards coming out and a lot of organizations wanted to implement those strategies, the data collection became really valuable. How are people traveling? How are they making the decisions? Where are they coming from? And what can we then do as an organization in partner with our clients to actually support those people in a better way to actually make sustainability more accessible to them? Because then one of the big things we realize is that sustainability for some people is a luxury and not very easily attainable. So a big thing about kind of the data section side was how do we make sustainable travel actually accessible to people and then really kind of provide them the solution that has that value. So quite a journey, a lot of kind of changes in there. But yeah, so started shooting carpool and then really kind of began to go on that journey to now arrive where we are, which is this full multimodal travel platform, and then kind of this really unique AI data collection technology to generate those sustainability insights.
No, it's amazing. And I think that's what attracted certainly my attention to the Staxy program. Is it's not just that sort of traditional carpooling, car sharing tool. It does that, of course, and does it well, and it does a whole host of other things. And I suppose that journey of kind of pivoting and recognizing what else your app can do, was that informed by people who are using your app? Was that informed by sustainability professionals? Where did that come from?
It was a combination of the two. One of the big things for us is like consistently seeking feedback from our users as to how the platform can add more value to them. And I think that really came through, particularly in terms of the kind of mass side, the mobility service side, because when we were talking to kind of students, to fans, it was very much like a lot of them driving them, that is the principal form of travel. So carpooling was a central part of that. But actually, we know that for organizations based in central London, public transport route planning, e-mobility solutions, and tube access is significantly valuable to them where they don't drive as much. It was talking to kind of major football clubs who have significant parking facilities saying, actually, how can we tie sustainability with parking to say that if you're carpooling, you get better parking access, then be able to manage that entire ecosystem for them. So a combination of user feedback, but also actually kind of working with the organizations on what are the problems that they really face and their unique circumstances, their geographical location, where their user base are traveling from, the existing transport infrastructure around them, and how can we actually take that and provide them the solution that's most relevant to them. And sustainability professionals really guided us on that process. I think that's really where the data collection came in. It was looking to try and meet scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3 reporting standards and try to say, actually, you have a big data black hole here where you rely on employee travel surveys or postcode data to try and collect that data. And that's a snapshot at one time in the year where you're getting kind of a minimal insight into how certain people travel, which is great, but everyone knows that you're far more likely to travel by travel solutions in the summer than you are in the winter, and your winter survey doesn't reflect that. So it was trying to really say, actually, well, here's data section on regular commuting journeys that you're getting on a kind of wide user base that actually gives you clear results that you can actually implement a strategy based off. So a combination of kind of working with the organization, but also what we can see from wider trends in the market and what our users are wanting.
And you mentioned e-mobility and trends, trends that you're seeing out there. I think it's fair to say, we're Team Jump, we've got a London office. E-mobility is, and when we talk about e-mobility, we're talking, of course, around kind of that last mile connectivity, the e-bikes, e-scooters. Are you seeing a shift in how people are using your app, or how people are commuting, or using those methods of travel within their commute?
Yeah, I think the biggest difference we see is kind of the regional basis of how different people are traveling. I think when we look at the Southwest, a lot of it is car-based, and then kind of minimal train travel, people who are nearby, or at least people driving to the train station because they don't have significant public transport bus networks, or they don't have e-mobility solutions in the area. We know that Exeter local council tried a scheme, but then didn't get the uptake and the usage from it because of the kind of the demographic of the people there, but also the kind of geographical scope of where people were living. It didn't meet the requirements. But in London, when we talk to some of our London-based clients, it's a massive part of the value proposition to them because they know that it's such a significant part of how people commute to their offices, their venues. And what we can really see is actually how the location of the e-mobility solutions that people are utilizing, how those are looking to adjust. So for stadiums, how they're looking to set up designated areas where they can be accessed, because that is just so much more frequently becoming the mode of travel that people choose. And that's kind of where we really see some of the trends. I think in terms of individual usage, I think that's kind of where we're really trying to now push some of that kind of behavior change analytics. Like, how can we get people to shift those behaviors, and kind of almost what are the changes behind that? Weather is a massive factor in that. We see invasive solution usage decrease quite significantly when people, for example, when it's pouring rain, when it's freezing cold. So I think that will be stuff that we'll see more and more over time as we continue to work with our clients.
Yeah, I can imagine. The huge, we always think about it when we're trying to encourage people to commute more actively or commute more sustainably, and encouraging people to start that process in winter is really difficult. It's a really hard sell, isn't it? Nobody wants to put on their soggy cycling clothes from the previous day and head out in the sleet and freezing cold, whereas actually spring and summer is the prime time for those sort of interventions, when the days are longer and the weather's much nicer.
Yeah, 100%. I think that we see kind of weather being one of the big factors, but also community being another big factor in that. A lot of people feel much safer when they're cycling with other people, when other cyclists are around. For example, you can see people when they're stopping going, how they're tucked in. So I think being able to create, and this is something we aim to try to do, cycling environments where you can group together within an organization or within a sports organization to cycle together on your commute, I think is a really good way to try provide some of those safety initiatives, or other little things like in a route planning algorithm. How can we actually show you cycle routes that are well lit throughout the whole of your journey, as ways that kind of do small little things, but can really help someone kind of feel more comfortable in participating in active travel.
Yeah, it's confidence, isn't it? It gives it can instill greater confidence into making that leap and taking that step. And then for us as an organisation, Team Jump, we're very values led. We, a lot of the reasons why we love doing what we're doing, because of we're making a difference and we're having a positive impact on sustainability. We're helping change and influence people's behaviours around hitting net zero targets and reducing people's carbon footprint. What does sustainability mean to Staxy and to yourself? Is that a value? Is that something core as part of the business?
Yeah. It's one of our core values, and it's why we really started the business in the first place. I think growing up in a generation where sustainability is at the forefront of kind of almost every conversation you're having, and in terms of kind of what are people's goals and what do the next 30 years look like, I think naturally puts you in this when you think about it in almost every aspect of what you're doing. And that's what we try to do as an organization, try to make it a central decision-making factor in whether we're developing new features and functionality, whether we're working with new clients, how we're engaging with our users. It's how can we make sure that sustainability is always a priority in that process. I think just a bit of context to kind of why we want to start this and how we looked at it. Like transport is 29% of the UK's carbon footprints, and commuting within that is 5%, which when you think about it, doesn't seem like a huge amount, but if you put, by the way, context that's the equivalent of Iceland. Like the entire country is basically UK commuting. So if we look at kind of our daily commuting trips, it's about the equivalent of 10 million cars every year on the road, about 7 million households. So if we look at it as our purpose to try to reduce that, if we can get people changing their behavior just one day a week to traveling more sustainably, whether that's on public transport, whether they're not driving on their own, and we can reduce emissions, our goal is hopefully by 3.5 million tons a year, then that's the equivalent of an entire country. So our goal there is kind of really focused on the idea that how can we look at making sustainability easily available to everyone we work with, and a core part of kind of what we look to do.
Yeah, great. And then thinking about that specifically, are there any, how are people responding to the Staxy app? Are there any particular strategies or techniques that you've used within Staxy which is helping engage with individuals, helping get people on board, helping boost engagement, and especially thinking about people who might be listening in today who are also trying to bring something new into their organization or into their workplace?
Yeah, 100%. So for us at the moment, our two kind of primary markets are sports, so major sports clubs and events, and then also kind of corporate environments and kind of that education system. And when we look at sports, we know that over 70% of fans want their clubs to be doing more to encourage sustainable initiatives. And similarly, I think latest studies show that 77% of young people coming into the workforce want their business they work for to have sustainability initiatives in place. So the demand is there, people want it. I think the big question is, how do you then activate that need and actually make a tangible impact? And for us, there are kind of two ways in which we see that. The first is really understanding the problem. It's understanding, okay, if you want to make, for example, your organization more sustainable, if you want to help employees be more sustainable in their daily lives, where are they not? And can you understand the problem to understand, okay, well, this is what we need to do to make them more sustainable? So for us in our individual context, we look at that as from a data perspective. Where do high emissions journeys come from? And how can we look at what we need to do to reduce them? But if you're in an office environment, what is your highest frequency waste products? And where does that source of emissions come from? So understanding it, and then also giving people the tools to then actually make a difference. So we find that a big part is actually giving people the options. So being able to let them know that these other options are out there. So for us, the mass system, but for example, alternative products you can purchase or utilize that are more sustainable. Like we all see at the bottom of email footers, please don't print this email. There are things like that, but it's a really small one. But how can you do more to kind of communicate to people kind of what else they could be doing that would be a more sustainable option? But one of the big things that we really realize makes a big difference is community. How can you create collective accountability and also collective involvement to drive change? So for us, and I think this is a big part of what Jump are looking to do, how can you kind of create competition between people where they want to try be more sustainable and kind of thrive off that kind of wanting to kind of be at the forefront of the initiative? How can you get people working together, for example, in cycling groups to make active travel more appealing? That's where we really see some of the biggest changes. And it comes from quite interesting psychology, whether it's competition, whether it's not wanting to be left out, whether it's FOMO, of actually saying, everyone else in your team, your department are making these changes and are having this big impact. How can you be part of this? And how can we give you the tools to make this easy for you to kind of come along that journey? So my kind of, to kind of summarize a lot of kind of talking there, I think it's really understanding the problem so you can easily identify what you need to change. Is then providing people and really clearly communicating to them what those options are available to them and how they can be more sustainable by making simple changes. And then kind of on top of that, the big thing for us is community. How can you get collective buy-in where people are working together? We all know that in health, one of the biggest things is step challenges. How can you get like kind of a department seeing who can have the most steps or kind of every month to try to be really healthy? And for us, it's like, how can we do the same with sustainability? So that'd be kind of my big point.
Yeah, I think there's some really powerful points there, and those mechanisms, that sort of social proof element of that FOMO factor, as you called it, that is such a motivational factor. We see it time and time again when we run competitions between different teams within organizations, and suddenly one team will be really pushing hard to earn points in our platform in order to come top of that leaderboard. And that is a little bit of that is that communicating those leaderboards back to the wider organization and saying, look, this is what's happening. But yeah, really powerful stuff.
No, 100%. And I think that kind of ties in with the awareness element of it. It's like, do people know about all the amazing work that's going on that individuals are doing to be more sustainable? And I think it's being really proud of that, and it's like kind of celebrating the achievements of individuals to say, look, these people are making these steps. How can we get more people on board as part of that journey?
Yeah, 100%. And then thinking about sustainability more broadly and trends that you're seeing in the market, or how you think organizations are changing their approach to sustainability over the last few years, especially in 2025. Where do you see sustainability heading in the future for Staxy and also just much more generally?
So if we look at kind of a really kind of big global outlook, I feel obviously it's COP30 going on at the moment, and you have the President of the United States not attending. So I think kind of, I do think in a really sad way has set sustainability back quite a bit. I think if you look at the US market, I think it is quite sad to see the step backs there. But at the same time, you have China setting some of their most ambitious net zero goals. And even though they are a significant polluter, it's the first time they've done that and they set those goals this year. You have, I think, the rest of kind of Western democracies in Europe really rallying around sustainability because they see it kind of being a bit under threat from the US. So I think as much as kind of there is a lot of, I feel from certain kind of political parties, and so as well people kind of pushing sustainability down, I think there are champions who are still out there really trying to celebrate it. So I think that'd be kind of the big trend I see. I think there's a lot of juxtaposition how people view sustainability, but I think the data doesn't change, the science doesn't change. Like the benefits of the economy, I think is still there and still easily provable. It's just a case of can we kind of shout about it loud enough so that people are still kind of very aware of the message. If we take it down to kind of the next level, I think it's really interesting seeing some of the new legislation coming in. A couple of years ago, you had, I think it was last year, CSRD came through, the big European carbon reporting standards, which was a really significant kind of, I think, piece of legislation. They've also had to adjust it now it's come live to kind of manage the ability of people to transition to that. But I think it's a really significant step saying that there is large bits of legislation coming through mandating sustainable initiatives and really trying to push people in the right direction. And then kind of again go a bit more micro around kind of our perspective. I think sustainable travel is changing rapidly. The uptake of EVs, if you look at the Nordic countries and in the US, as well as kind of Central Europe, is significant. We see e-mobility solutions everywhere across nearly all major cities. Government funding initiatives are going towards kind of active traveling EV projects. Like, it's very much coming to the forefront. I think it's now just kind of the case of, are we in the best position to capitalize on that and really kind of maximize our ability to take advantage of it? I think there are also dependencies to that, kind of EV batteries, but I think fundamentally over the next kind of 30 years, we will see that significant change. I think it's just kind of what are going to be the factors that maximize the impact of it. I think there's a lot that kind of is there to kind of be taken advantage of. It's just kind of, do we give people the tools to do so?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've gone for a really kind of macro take there.
That's good.
But yeah,
you used the word juxtaposition. I think that's it, isn't it? You know, you've got things happening in the UK, things happening locally. You know, lots of noise around sustainability, but then contrasting against this sort of global entrenchment, if you like. And we're yet again we're seeing another COP where, you know, you kind of don't have very high expectations in terms of what the outputs and outcomes are going to be.
Yeah, but that's where hopefully, like, I know kind of if you look at, I go to Zach Polanski as like head of Green Party because he's the loudest about it at the moment, and his message is very much about kind of looking at kind of a national and global level around corporates about what they can do. But I think it's also kind of, what can we do as individuals that can kind of support that, and what can we do to kind of make those small changes that add up to the collective difference?
Yeah, 100%. And then Staxy, within your product, you're using AI. You know, you've talked about the AI methodology and mechanism, which is really slick, really powerful. And AI, of course, is a huge concern to lots of people. You know, big questions around how it's used and all that sort of thing. Where do you see AI going next, especially around sustainability? What do you think is the next?
Yeah, so I think I can talk to kind of about what we do specifically, and then a bit more about kind of the general trend. And I feel AI is the big buzzword that kind of
it is, isn't it?
It's really coming in. So for us, our team have developed an algorithm that effectively enables us to identify modes of travel and carbon emissions directly, but without any kind of active engagement from the users. Without having to fill out a survey, we can use some bits of data to kind of calculate that and provide a really accurate idea of a user's emissions profile when they're commuting. I think for us, that kind of gives us a huge ability to generate really in-depth insights to inform strategies, in terms of being able to kind of look at a broad stroke kind of commuter network and really understand where emissions are coming from, but also almost instantaneously at the same time be able to analyze what are the alternative options available to them and how can we recommend them to an individual. So if we know that everyone from this area is driving, how can our AI immediately identify that and then give us really quick, simple alternatives that can say, okay, this is actually what we need to get those people to try to do to be more sustainable in terms of their kind of daily mode of travel. So that's kind of how we look to implement it, and then we kind of activate that through our mass platform. And a big part of our growth is to continue to refine that technology and how we can then try utilize kind of its almost ability on a wider scale so it can travel more generally. I think kind of looking broad stroke, I think AI will solve a significant portion of some of the sustainability challenges we are facing. I think if you look at the computing power of some of the new models and some of the challenges we are kind of trying to encounter, looking at carbon capture technique, I think simply the ability to access a PhD graduate's kind of intellect on a instantaneous basis to address problems, and that only kind of get more powerful. It does give me real hope that we will get to significant solutions in the next 30 years that will not reverse climate change. I think that's impossible, but will hopefully stem the growth from 1.5 degrees to 1.7 to 2 is what, and 2.5 is what they're talking about. So I think that's where I think in EV batteries, in carbon capture technology, I think hopefully AI can have a really positive impact. And that's kind of the last year, but I think, yeah, it's how can kind of every business utilize it on a more micro scale to really drive that change.
Yeah, yeah, that's super interesting. And then my last question, and just a couple of minutes left today, and I just want to touch upon this project that we're working on together.
Yeah.
So we've got this integration set up, or soon to be set up. It's work in progress between the Staxy platform and the Team Jump platform. Users who are using Staxy can earn points and rewards for doing so on the Jump Team Jump platform. I think it's integrated really well. I think it'd be really quite an exciting thing for lots of users. What do you expect the reaction amongst users to be to that sort of idea of incentivizing sustainable travel in this way?
Yeah, 100%. We're really, really excited by it. From a lot of what we know, gamification, incentivization is such a big part of driving behavior change. And for our side, whilst we can understand the problem and we can try to direct people to alternative solutions, a big part of kind of that journey to be more sustainable is making that behavior change and kind of getting a user to make that different decision. And to have a platform like Jump as part of our technology stack and kind of working together really closely on that is a significant tool which we can use to try to get that behavior change to happen. I think people talk about you need people to change their habits 7 times to build a new habit. And to be able to work with Jump and kind of the extensive rewards available and to try really focus in on what we want people to be able to do and reward them for it, I think is a massive thing for us to be able to do. Because I think if you take the example of someone being able to kind of be rewarded every time they do carpool with another colleague, in addition to kind of every other benefit they get, is just such a kind of dopamine rush for the individual to really kind of say, no, what you're doing has been great. We really love behavior. How can we support it further and really encourage it? So for our side, we're really excited to see kind of the impact that it has and kind of continue to see how we can work together to maximize and refine its effectiveness and the impact it has. So yeah, really, really looking forward to the next couple of months and years.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Well, Will, thanks ever so much, and thanks for joining today. I really appreciate it, and hopefully that's of use to the people who are dialing in or watching this on playback. Well, if they want to find out more about Staxy, where should people visit?
Yeah, 100%. Our website, www.staxy.co.uk, or they can drop me an email, will@staxy.live, or just connect with me on LinkedIn. Really happy to talk to anyone about what we're doing.
Perfect. And of course, the same for Team Jump, and our website, teamjump.co.uk. Loads of resources, loads of information on there about exactly what we do and how we can help. Will, thanks so much. Speak soon.
Awesome. Thanks so much for your time.
Take care. Bye.